Yes.
I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Rogan? Mr. Evans? Mr. Gaughan?
Here.
Mr. Wexler?
Here.
The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following: file of the Council Number 110, 2017, an ordinance closing and vacating a portion of Wright Court between Linden Street and the formerly vacated portion of Wright Court.
There was a sign-in sheet for anyone who wanted to offer public comment at this hearing. There is no one on the sign-in sheet. Is there anyone that wants to address council on this matter? There is none. Hearing is adjourned. It's good government. Good evening, everyone. This is Scranton City's Council is a caucus this evening. We have some legislation on our agenda this evening for a final vote that revolves around rental registration. So to give us some more information, we have invited Mr. James Moran to detail the program, to just get some of the details flushed out before we take our final vote. So Mr. Moran, it's all yours.
Good evening, Council. My name is James Moran. I am the owner of Exceptional Payments, and RentalOrdinance.com is a subsidiary of Exceptional Payments. Exceptional Payments has been processing credit card delinquent taxes for Lackawanna County for over 8 years. We have done over $1 million per year for Lackawanna County. We also attend the auctions and help bidders at the auction, at the judicial sale, and at the tax sale. About a year and a half ago, I noticed some of the properties that were appearing on the MLS site were technically wrong. Some of the properties were listed as single units, single homes, but listed underneath multifamily. So I started looking into them, and I started finding out that a lot of properties in the city of Scranton were being sold and are still around that are listed as single homes, paying one trash fee, and they have 3 or 4 or more than 3 or 4 apartments in them. I did see that you guys put an RFP out for the rental registration. I'd like to help licensing and permit find these properties. It's not that the licensing and permit is going to simply sub it out. I'm going to work with them. They're still going to be completely involved. There's some different ways that I know of and that I have come up with that will help them find the properties. So I'm here before council tonight to answer any questions you guys have in regard to it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a few. Let's see. First of all, thank you for coming in, Mr. Moran. How many people work for your company?
There's myself. I do have a CPA that handles the money and a money handler.
Okay.
So the CPA really gets involved on a monthly basis to find the payments and how many payments we've done for Lackawanna County. And the money handler transfers the money through ACH to Lackawanna County. Okay. So I do have technically 3.
So for this specific program, RentalOrdinance.com, and what you'll be doing, it's just primarily going to be you that's handling all of the work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Has your company performed this kind of work in any other city or
No,
borough?
we have not.
Okay, so this is a totally new venture.
Correct.
Okay. How is I notice in the in your backup in your proposal, it says that you're going to assist with the rental registration database compilation and management program, and you are going to create the database using other databases. So can you give us a list of what specific information you're going to be using?
All different types of everything from the voter registration files all the way down to double checking the properties by going out to them and looking at them, counting the meters, different stuff like that. The one area that we all know is a little bit mixed up is the assessor's information. Where it's listed as a single home, you do come across properties that have 3 or 4 apartments in them. I'll be using different databases that I have control over that are proprietary to my company that I've completed. I'll also be using the MLS to find the properties on there that are being sold right now. So there's different ways of finding the properties.
Okay, so you're going to be using the voter registration information.
The assessor's information too.
Okay, and then databases that you own yourself that have different information?
That I've worked on, yes. That I've gone through the properties, and I've looked through a lot of the properties and found them.
Okay, so are city employees going to be able to have access to those type of databases, or?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
The database that we're compiling is going to be property of the city of Scranton.
Okay.
So like if we find a property that they're paying a single trash bill on, and we find out it's got 4 of them in there, the city can easily update their database for the year after.
Okay, so when the 3-year contract is up, the city will be able to maintain, and it essentially owns whatever database you create or come up with?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just talk a little bit about, I know I believe there's 2 employees now in the rental registration program upstairs. Can you just talk about what they're going to be doing specifically if we approve your contract?
The way you would imagine my website set up, the site gets set up, it gets a capture form on it, in a web capture form. And the person registering the property goes onto it, the website, fills out the form, hits submit. The city of Scranton gets a copy of what they submitted. I get a copy, and they get their email copy of what they submitted. Mm-hmm. They can also pay online. They will also be able to basically go back and update it for the year after. We'll send out emails saying, you know, please go back on and re-register for the new year. The city of Scranton, what they'll be doing is they'll still be doing the sticker. They still want to do the sticker. I'll be giving them a sticker to place on top of theirs, the QR code sticker they would like to place on top of theirs. The QR code sticker will contain the emergency contact numbers for that property. So they'll be able to place that sticker and send that sticker out. The employees still will be doing work on behalf of this. There's no taking away jobs.
Okay. In the backup here, you referenced the city landlord database. Do you know if that's publicly available?
Excuse me again with that?
The city landlord database that we currently have, do you know if that information is publicly available?
I don't know if it's publicly available, but I do think that they do have something of a database that they're using right now. I don't know what it looks like. I didn't get a chance to really look at it.
Okay. You mentioned the sticker. Can you explain who is scanning that, and what are you using to scan that? Are you using a smartphone, or?
Use a smartphone, and what you can do is you can scan it. You scan the sticker, and what it will do is give you the phone number of after entering a code, it will give you a phone number of the person who is either the caretaker of the house, if they live within 20 miles outside the city of Scranton, or the landlord who lives within the 20-mile radius.
And is this an application that you'd have to download on your phone?
It shouldn't be, no, just the scanning.
To scan the sticker.
Just a scanner would be, yes.
Okay.
It just pops up, it just says, you know, here's the phone number.
Now, is that something that you provide? Like, you provide the scanners, or?
The app?
Yeah.
The app is free.
Oh, okay.
On all, most phones have it.
Okay.
If you, like, on your smartphone, if you go to the App Store, they give them to you for free, the QR code
You know,
readers.
while you're on there, I don't want to forget this question because it's important. Only the people that, not everybody has access to that QR code. It's going to be city employees, yourself, police department, fire department.
Correct.
They'll have a code or a password to
Yes.
make sure so there's not, because all that
whoever-
information is obviously sensitive and shouldn't be out there for the public as far as the owner's name and phone numbers and things like that.
Correct. Whoever licensing permit issues a passcode,
Okay,
most likely it will be kept within licensing permit.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Do you know how many, in the city landlord database, do you know how many properties are currently in there total?
I would, the one that we're licensing permit uses right now?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. It says in your proposal that rentalordinance.com will do visual inspections on all properties that are contained in the landlord database. Now, I'm not, is that the database that you're just creating, or is that the current database?
Yes, that I've been working on creating. I'm going to either done, or I'm working on doing visuals on them.
Okay. And do you know how long this is going to take you? Because you said it's just primarily going to be you going out and visually inspecting these properties, or?
I'll be ready when the city's ready to start this program.
Okay. And can you just explain what the visual inspection, what does that exactly entail? And the second part of that question is, when you're visually inspecting these properties, and, you know, let's say that I'm in the apartment, and I ask, you know, what you're doing near my, I don't know if you go on the property or you're just on the sidewalk. How do you, are you representing the city, just your company? Like, how does that work? Can you explain that?
Basically, what I'm going to be looking for is meters. If there's 2 meters, 3 meters, different stuff like that, I'm going to be representing myself. I'm not going to be any type of representation connected to the city of Scranton.
Okay. Can you explain within the proposal the cost, fee, compensation section? So basically, I think it's pretty clear what the benefit to the city is going to be, but can you just explain, you know, how do you make money on this?
How do I what?
How do you make money on this? Like, on page 32, the cost, fee, and compensation section, can you just run through that and explain how that works?
Well, basically, when the landlord goes on to the website, they are going to sign up. I take the $10 from the landlord, and I provide the city the rest.
Okay. And is that just for landlords who are not currently registered, correct?
It would be for anybody going on to register right now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand
Well,
this.
that would be true, though, because what's in the database now, you're not going to duplicate, you know.
Correct.
So they're already in the database, the estimated 2,000 or 3,000 that are already in there.
Okay.
So this would only be ones that are coming in as new.
New.
And newfound.
Okay, so if they're already registered then,
Right.
and they want to re-register,
Right.
and they want to use your website, do they then have to pay the $10 to register
Yes.
online?
Yes.
Okay, so it could be for
Okay,
ones that are already registered.
For the follow-up year, I guess, yeah.
It's not for the database that that is the city's going to start using. If they've already registered, they're not going to be, the city won't be charged for those.
Right.
It's the unique ones for anybody who doesn't already, that the city already hasn't registered.
Okay. In here it says that if they don't have access to a computer, they can call a 1-800 number, but they can only call it between, I don't know, I think 10 and 1. Can you just explain that, why those, for the short hours?
I could do it for longer. I talked to licensing and permit, and what we could do is, we could do it a couple different ways. We could put a kiosk located here in the city, basically the person can come in, fill out the form on the kiosk, or if they wish to use the paper, they can fill it out, put their check in, and mail it, or drop it off here to the city. They could do both.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have this correct, too. The employees in the rental registration department, they're not going to be able to update any new information into the database. That will solely be your responsibility.
They'll be able to view it.
They'll be able to view it, but they won't be able to update it.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, you could jump in.
yeah, well, I know, we had a meeting on Monday, and I want to refresh some of the things we talked about, because my understanding was that as you get a new unique rental, you're going to pass that information on to the city so they can update their database.
Right, and that's the email I talked about.
Okay.
What the email does is it goes to the city can get their email, and on the email, it will say the first name, last name, and the whole information about that, and they're going to enter it into their computer system.
Okay.
So there's actually competing databases. They're going to be yours and the city's, but the city's going to be the all-encompassing ultimate database, because
Correct.
it's going to have the existing and anything that's unique. And Jim, you're only going to have what you're developing.
Correct.
All
Now,
right.
can you tell us more about the databases that you already have? I'm just interested in that, because there's been so much discussion about what the city did wrong the last time when they sent out the letters to people that didn't have a rental, and they used, I don't know, they used different types of information. You said you had already created your own, and you're using that?
Correct.
Okay, can you talk about that a little bit more? Where did you get your information from?
Basically, I got it from, like I said, the MLS site. When somebody was trying to sell their house, I look at the properties that were being sold. I'd also look at some properties that were being refinanced, different stuff, ways like that,
Okay.
voter files, and the assessor site.
Okay. Is any of that information not available to the employees in the licensing and inspections department?
Everything's available.
Okay. I mean, if they wanted to do that themselves, this is all public information, is what I'm trying to get
Most
at.
of it is, yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Oh, the last question, just to be clear, your website is only going to accept credit cards or e-checks. You're not going to accept any cash.
Correct.
Okay. And what is the reason for that? Just convenience or?
Convenience.
Convenience, okay. The two employees, can they go out and visually inspect properties, or
No.
is that
They
just-
deal with the money part of it, the ACHing of the money over. If I do feel the need for more employees, I will put people on. But right now, I feel pretty confident of the list that I have.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
A couple questions, and the visual inspection is the part that I really like the most on this proposal, because everyone remembers the disaster when the city sent out thousands of erroneous bills just based off the assessor's data, when in those cases, if you had a double lot with only a single house, they received a bill. Could you talk a little bit more about how the visual inspection corrects that, and also, well, I'll do the second part as a follow-up.
Visual inspection, really, the best way to do it is to constantly be looking for databases. And I will be constantly looking for databases. With everything from the mortgages, like I said, the MLS site, and also going out and visually inspecting them. You can check by meters, you can check by sewer, you can check by mailing addresses. Mailing addresses, if the property is located at 124 River Street and the tax bill is being sent to a different location, that's usually an indication that there might be and that's something that you should look at. Not just simply mail them out a rental registration. That's something that you have to look at. In different ways. Meters are number one, and number two is going maybe to the housing authority and asking them if they have any rentals, that when they rent to somebody in the city of Scranton, would they please double check that their landlords are registered with the city of Scranton.
And one part you mentioned actually got to where I was going to follow up was, you mentioned the tax assessors, the name of, they own a house at 123 River, and the tax bill is going to, 456 Bernie.
Correct.
Obviously, it's most likely not an owner occupied.
Correct.
And there's a number of single-family rentals in the city that the city has not captured. So this will capture, you're going through, compiling all these lists will hopefully capture
Yes.
most of those properties.
There are different ways I'm going to be working on it. One way I want to work on it, I want to see if the housing authority, like I said, would be like part of their checklist, check to see if the property is registered with the city of Scranton before they allow tenants to go in there. That's a good way of doing it. The second way of doing it, I had spoke to Mr. Evans about. It's called an affidavit for non-rental. An affidavit for non-rental, there's different people that use it, different areas that use it. One is Lancaster. And what they do is at the time of the closing agent will sign that the property is not a rental. And what they do is then they fax it in to the city of Lancaster. And giving it to the city of Lancaster notarized saying that the property is not a rental. Or they can say it is and they will register it within 30 days. It helps because that does capture that avenue of people selling their houses.
And finally, just a comment, again, the city has been trying to do a reasonable rental registration forever. It seems like, previous, the fee was by far too high. That's been taken care of. There's still a court case on the old rental registration fee. And the thing I like the most about this proposal is that the city's only paying a fee on new registrations.
Correct.
Which the registration rate is pathetic in the city. So I do think the city needs help in trying to increase that number. And, the first time, if you go out and do the work and obtain properties that should be registered that aren't, makes sense that there should be a fee, but the ones the city already has, obviously, we're not going to pay a fee on
Yes.
those.
Yes.
So, thank you.
And like I said, the affidavit of non-rental, I think will work really well if, city council passed that. Basically, putting that into the closing agent's hands, and they get it, they have to state either it's a rental or it's not a rental. That helps.
Mr. Marin, what is your contingency if you're not able to do this full-time?
I will be doing it full-time.
Okay, but I think we should have, like, if you become ill or who would take your place in such a type, if that situation arose?
I'm probably going to get an employee or two in regard to helping me.
Yeah, I think that may be something that you need sooner than later.
Yes.
Because it's a strange world nowadays, and
Yes.
you might hit the lottery and move to Tahiti or something, but
Yes.
I think we're going to need some type of contingency in case you're not
I
able
will.
to
I'll put some
perform the
together.
duty.
I have one additional question. The part in your proposal, it says report unregistered rentals. Citizens will be able to report an unregistered apartment in the city of Scranton by using a 1-800 tip line or filling out a web form on your website, rentalordinance.com. Rentalordinance.com will do an inspection of the unregistered apartment tip to find out if the property is a rental property. Now, Mr. Rogan just mentioned that our registration rate is low. So I'd imagine, I don't know how you're going to advertise this whole thing and how people are going to know about this. I don't know what the plans are there. But I'd imagine once it's advertised, you're going to get flooded with calls to this tip line. Now, you just said earlier that right now you're the only one that's going to be going out and doing visual inspections. So how are you going to handle that?
Along with the licensing and permit, because I spoke to licensing and permit, and they would like to be involved. Still, they want to go out, and they want to do the visual inspection too. I spoke to Mr. Hinton and the two employees that handle it, and they still want to go out. And so if I get a tip line, if I get a tip, I'm going to pass it on to them.
Okay, so you're going to be directing them then?
Correct.
Where to go?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, is the 1-800 line created already, or do you have to
No.
create that?
No, it will be created.
Okay. And then how are you going to advertise this? Are you going to rely on the city or to do the advertising of this new program, like where to go to the website, or the tip line?
The different tip lines and things like that, I will take care of some type of advertising on them.
Okay, and that'll just come out of your own budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I want to go back to the visual inspection. That's a little bit of a hot topic. What I envision happening, and I think there's a check and balance here because, you know, you're going to find a property that you're going to go out and inspect. You got a tip, whatever the case may be, and it says there's a 3-unit there. You confirm that it's a 3-unit. At that point, you're going to be sending out an application or some information for that individual to register based on the information you now have.
Correct.
So that property owner now has to confirm that. So there is a check and balance there. You know, they can come back and say, no, it's really a 2-family. Now it's going to require an interior inspection. So that process would be in play, I would imagine, on every single inspection.
Correct.
Or visual
That's
inspection.
where the city comes in. That's where the city's really gonna,
The other side of it is, and I think that's why the QR code and the sticker is invaluable. We never had a sticker before. I'm not sure why, but we have, of course, this is a 25-year failed, you know, process. So what that'll do is, as inspectors are driving down the street or anybody's driving down the street, they'll see a sticker and they'll know that that building is registered. If there's a 4-family that's clearly a multifamily and there's no sticker, you know right then and there that it hasn't been registered. So
And-
once the sticker process is in full, you know, out there completely, I think that's going to make a big difference as well.
it is, and I think that's gonna help with the tips, the neighbors.
Right.
I think the garbage men also driving down the road that they see an apartment building with a lot of garbage out in the front they've been picking up for years, and they find out that that is a 10-unit apartment building.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize too that the intended consequence of all this is the fact that we're going to be finding a lot more people that aren't currently paying their garbage bills.
Correct.
That's the point. This is never meant to be a money maker. It's supposed to be whatever the costs are, the costs are. And if more people are paying the garbage bill appropriately, then we could look at that seriously and reduce the garbage bill for everybody else. You know, so there's a lot of positives here.
Do you have any idea of how much revenue you can make off of this, like off of this program? Have you done those projections yet?
No.
Okay. And just to clarify, you said that property or property owners will only be charged this fee if they are new and just registering for the first time.
Correct.
Okay, so if I register tomorrow and I pay the $10, next year when I go to register again, I don't have to pay an additional $10 fee.
50.
Huh?
$50.
No, but I mean for your website.
Correct.
Okay, so that's it. It's a one-time deal.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so if I am a landlord and I'm not currently registered with the city,
Right.
and you send me a letter because that's what it says in your proposal, and I go on your website and I register, I have to pay $10, correct?
You pay the 50, and 10 goes to me, and 40 goes to the city of Scranton.
Okay, now the next year, if I use your database to update my information or anything like that, does any more money go to you? If the 50 goes to the city, when you register the next year, does 10 out of that go to you at all?
I believe the way it was worked out in the proposal was that it would be the ones that they have right now.
Right.
I believe it was, if I'm mistaken, like 2,300 people have been registering for it. That was the number I came up with. So anything above that would be the $10 would apply to.
Okay. Now, if one of those people that are already registered decides to use your website, then they have to pay the $10?
Yes. No.
No, because they're already registered. So this is only new, unique registrations.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our allotted time for this. Thank you, Mr. Moran, for answering our questions. We will adjourn back to the office, then come back for the start of the normally scheduled meeting. Thank you. For a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Especially former City Clerk Frank Naughton, who we will honor in a moment of silence to acknowledge his dedicated service to our city and its council, and to remember him as one of the finest gentlemen to have served as our city clerk. Mr. Naughton actually really invented the true meaning of being a great city clerk. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family. We also would like that you would remember Officer John Wilding and his family on the anniversary of his passing. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Rogan.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Gahn.
Here.
Mr. Wexler.
Here.
I would like to make a motion to take from the table Resolution Number 176, 2017.
Second.
On the question, this legislation pertains to a contract with James Moran to assist and develop the rental registration database program. This resolution will be placed in seventh order for a final vote. Anyone who wishes to speak on this particular piece of legislation may do so during fourth order citizens' participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved. Dispense with reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, breakdown of the eligible salaries for the liquid fuels account for the months of April, May, and June 2017.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have announcements at this time?
I have one announcement to make. On July 22nd, Saturday, the Manuka Lions is going to have their annual open golf tournament. It's held at the Pine Hills Country Club every year, which is on Kaiser Avenue in Taylor. It is $360 for a team, $90 a person. There's also tickets available for just the after dinner. Again, like all Lions clubs, the Manuka Lions Club does a great job with the community and giving back to the elderly and the children, and it's a great time and a great cause, so please consider attending and supporting the Manuka Lions.
I have two. The Fellows Park Sunday Concert Series will continue this weekend, July 16th. The Doug Smith Band will be performing at Fellows Park, which is on the corner of Fellows Street and North Main Avenue. This is free, rain or shine, brought to you by the West Scranton Hyde Park Neighborhood Watch. Secondly, also an event sponsored by the Neighborhood Watch is acrylic painting for children at 1304 Jackson Street. This is going to go on Tuesday, July 18th and July 24th from 1 to 2 p.m. with a snack provided for the children. Registration is suggested and a $5 donation is appreciated.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. I guess you're happy. 2 more weeks and you go on recess?
You can't believe it.
That's right. Never thought you'd live to see it. And I never thought I'd live to see it, but we got the 2016 independent audit dated July 11th and went to the city clerk's office yesterday, and I was able to review it there. As of 4:30, it's not yet been posted to the city's website. I hope they'll do that within the next couple days. It was a marvel of cut and paste ingenuity. In fact, they were so overwhelmingly cut and paste that when they were talking about the pension funds, and they mentioned that for fiscal year 2016, the funds earned 0.38% return on investment. No, that was 2015, where they cut and pasted in. They actually earned 5.29%, which is a much better year. So you have to be very careful when you're doing cut and paste. You sometimes get the facts wrong. The audit does allude to the sewer sale and the city getting it $66 million. But the one thing I didn't see in the city clerk's copy, and maybe this is because it just wasn't in that copy, I haven't seen the entire document online yet. And the 2015 audit, the very back of the audit, they had what's called the single audit, where they reviewed internal controls for city procedures. That section was missing from the city clerk's copy, so I don't know whether it wasn't done or just didn't happen to be included in that one copy, so we shall see. Internal controls are key to city operations, especially something that citizens should be able to review. Which brings to mind, don't forget that U.S. City Council have to publish your public summary of the audit and the legal section. So hopefully you can pump that out before you go on recess. And speaking of things that we're looking for, have you heard anything from the Attorney General?
No. The last time we spoke, Dave, it was going to be a few weeks, so this will
Okay.
be 2 weeks since we spoke to them.
Yeah, I doubt that you're going to hear before you go on recess, but I'll keep asking. How about the RFP for the third-party administrator for the pension funds? That's an oldie but goldie.
Nothing.
Still the same.
Yeah, let's see, March 18th, 2016, and tick-tock, tick-tock. How about the revised Knowles insurance list for city property?
Nothing yet.
Okie dokie. There was a very interesting editorial on July 9th in the Times Tribune, High Cost Thrift. And basically, it alluded to the fact that the state legislature is considering bills that would allow local governments like Scranton to conduct business by resolution rather than by ordinance. But by law, only ordinances must be advertised in the paper. And of course, the editorial said, no, we should advertise ordinances and resolutions, and it should all be ordinances and not moved over to resolutions. I have to agree with this editorial. This is penny-wise and pound-foolish legislation. If anything this city needs, it needs more public transparency on city operations. And the public needs the opportunity, at least if they take the time to read the legals, to see these kinds of things, any ordinances that are coming up, and hopefully also all resolutions. So I hope that those bills go down in defeat. And that brings to mind another issue. We need more, not less, public oversight of city operations. We need more citizens to get involved in tracking and following what the government does. I was pleased to see WNEP do one of their investigations on the police department's janitorial contract. And the upshot of that was we saw that the city put out the contract to bid. And I think that, if I recall, I think on July 21st is when the bids will be opened. So that should hopefully correct that problem. And just one quick thing on rental registration. Don't forget buildings like the Forum, which has 80 apartments, all of which are owned by individuals, but a significant number of those apartments are used for rental income. And I would strongly doubt if any of them have ever been registered. So don't overlook buildings like that, because you can't drive by and tell. Thank you.
You just gave Jim Moran a gift.
All tattletale, I promise.
John Foley?
Gentlemen, good to see you again. I haven't been here for a while. My family, including grandchildren, we've been in Europe on a vacation. Sadly, I had to miss the town hall meeting. I didn't get back until afterwards, and our family has been staying with us at the lake. With that said, let's deal with a couple of things. First, I would like to thank the citizen who sent me the regulation with respect to the money being turned over to the city, the sale proceeds from the sewer plant. I was aware of it. However, I disagree. I believe that the city had to dissolve the authority before it got the money. I understand that's under litigation, so there's no reason for me to deal with that in the future. I was not aware there was going to be a discussion on the registration fee tonight, rental registration, but I'm not optimistic the tip line is going to produce a lot of fruit. You need to provide some incentive for individuals to turn their neighbors in. At one of the previous meetings, I mentioned that if you put a fine for someone who knowingly broke the law by not registering, and I think $500 would be appropriate, that if somebody made a tip, they'd get 50% of the fine. They would get a whistleblower fee. Give these people some incentive to turn their neighbors in. Right now, they don't have it. That's an incentive. I understand that you guys have been asked to look at the 3-year recovery program. I will dare say that there is nobody in council that has the ability to truly understand that 3-year plan. I am not optimistic, and frankly, I have not had time to review it, but I will get to it. I believe the plan is probably flawed, no different than all the other financial information that you gentlemen have been provided by the city over the last several years. So what makes you think it's correct today? I will offer this. If you would like, I will review the plan on behalf of City Council. I will do it free of charge, as long as I get complete and unfettered access to the individuals who developed the plan, including the underlying assumptions. And I'd be more than happy to report back to you in writing as a public document. The decision whether you want to take me up on that offer is yours. There are several other issues out there, and I'm not going to try and get into them tonight. You received today, each one of you, an email requesting 2 pieces of information from the sewer authority, one of which dealt with stormwater. Tomorrow, the city is going to get the same letter, right to know request from me. I think it's important because all too often, this body is the last to know what is going on. That letter is meant to inform you if there is a problem. And the problem would be, what's afoot? Has there been any discussions with anybody with respect to the cost of repairs or the repair work itself for the stormwater system? Or has anybody ever discussed the sale of the stormwater system? Now, I've asked the authority, I'm asking the city, and frankly, the beneficiaries of this will be City Council and the public. If there hasn't been, they'll just say no. If they refuse to, city and the sewer authority, to respond to my right to know request, then you have to step back and say, there are probably things going on that you guys have not been informed of. So with that, have a great evening.
Thank you. Faith Franis?
Faith Franis, Scranton. Did Ned Abrahamson have a contract that came in front of you when the parking authority was sold?
No.
He didn't have a contract, and he still got the $200,000. That's $400,000 he got from the city with no contract. It might have been oral. Have you ever approved an oral contract?
No, we approved Mr. Abramson for a labor contract.
Pardon me? No,
A
not the labor contract.
That's the only
not-
contract, that's the only contract that we've approved for
But
Mr.
I asked, did you ever
No.
approve an oral contract?
We've never been asked to approve an oral contract.
I don't think he ever will be. To follow up on what Mr. Foley said, on December 15, 2016, this council passed an ordinance to dissolve the sewer authority. Mr. Wexler and Mr. Gahn voted no. Mr. Evans, Mr. Rogan, and Mr. Perry voted yes. And that was supposedly dissolved. But as of today, 7/13, the sewer authority is still active since 5/18/1953. The city didn't file the paperwork. And we still have Jason Schreiber there for $130,000 a year, and authority members are still working there. And how do you explain this not being dissolved and it's continuing to stay there? And all these, what I'm afraid of is it's a very dangerous precedent you're setting by allowing Mayor Courtwright to keep on breaking the laws. He broke the laws with the lawyers. Now I want to read the law from Governor Corbett now. I'm just reading what the editorial said, but I want to put some background to this. In 2012, the state legislature, by unanimous votes in both houses, specifically amended the Pennsylvania Municipal Authorities Act to preclude authorities from using their money and other resources to fund city government. Okay. But the amended Municipal Authorities Act says that authority money can't be used for anything other than the authority's own operations. That could mean that the authority actually was barred from giving the city any money from the sewer system sale, rather than the $70 million to date, plus $17 million for Dunmore. So I believe Mayor Courtwright has spent much money paying off bonds and loans with the sewer sale money. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and do you find the precedent I'm saying is being set is that Mayor Courtwright is continually breaking laws? And you let it go. You don't speak up about it. You just, nothing. I mean, you're the legislative branch. You don't even pass the laws. You let them go as well. But Mayor Courtwright is behind all of this, and he's the one that's held responsible. Now, how does he get to spend money from the sewer sale if it's not dissolved? And he's also spending it on city business. This law says that it's not supposed to be used for anything other than sewer authority purposes. This is not being used for sewer authority purposes. Yes, what's very good about it is it's saving the people money with the interest that they don't have to pay now because those loans are paid off. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying it's breaking the laws. Mayor Courtwright has to stop breaking city administrative laws, state laws. He just does whatever he wants, and nobody says anything. And they just, look at Dave Bolzoni. He's still working here illegally, and you don't care. You don't care. If he wants something done, you just go along with anything he wants. He's the culprit here, but you're an accomplice to all of this. So this sword sale, I don't even know if it's legal anymore, any of it. They're not supposed to get money for the city for anything with the sewer sale money unless it's for sewer reasons. And the money Mayor Courtwright is using it for is certainly not that. So that to me is illegal, and I hope somebody checks into this. But I wish you would have something to say up there instead of saying nothing. Do you feel this is right, or do you feel it's wrong, or you don't agree, or what?
Well, we asked our solicitor last week, and he gave his opinion, and
well,
you may not agree with it. I know that, Faye,
His
but, you know.
opinion didn't go too far, his
Well,
opinion.
part of the other issue is that the sewer authority had $3.1 million worth of consulting and legal fees And of course, that question came up at some point in time there, so we paid I hope Sewer Authority didn't get $3 million worth of bad advice.
That's another thing. The money was spent, the sewer sale money was spent to hire the lawyers. That's illegal. It was not, that's
Yeah.
city money. I mean, it's city money, but it's only supposed to be used for sewer reasons, and that is not. Lawyers' fees are not sewer
So,
reasons.
yeah, I mean, we're at that point now where we have competing opinions. I'm not saying that's my opinion, I'm just saying there's competing opinions on what's right and what's wrong.
Well, what's
So-
what's lawful and what's not,
Right,
right and wrong.
well, that's true, so now
What's
we're at the
legal and
point.
what's not legal.
I think there's a lawsuit now, again, trying to straighten this
Well-
all out, but it never ends with lawsuits, but that's, you know.
The only reason is if Mayor Courtright stopped breaking the laws, there wouldn't be lawsuits. Like, I
Right.
can't afford to get a lawyer, but if I could, I'd be there every week with the things he's pulling.
I understand,
Thank you.
thank you.
Lenny Cerebro?
Good evening, Council. Lenny Cerebro, Scranton residents. Hey, strangers, long time no see. I didn't go away. Still got the problems up there with the flooding. You know, I thought I would give some courtesy to the biggest thing going on with the sale of the sewer authority. So, you know, I just let it ride for a while. Now, we really haven't had any storms since late last year, but I'm telling you, in the last 2 weeks, got hammered again, you know. Now, this was Friday and Saturday, and also today and yesterday. The flooding it's like nothing changed. Now, when they did come and flush that drainage pipe, they only did it halfway. They ran out of equipment to do the whole drainage pipe, that 36-inch pipe that goes to Kaiser Creek. But they were supposed to get more equipment to finish the job. That was the end of that. So
And they never returned to finish?
they
Mr.
never
Cerebro?
returned to finish it. It's just like nobody picked up on it. And I'm telling you that it's the same thing. You know, like the water, I gotta say, the water does drain eventually. But before it gets a chance to drain, once again, my property, you know, people call it Lake Lenny. You know, you cannot tell the difference where the street line is, where the pavement is, to my property in the yard, you know. It's all a big lake there. Now, lately, in that neighborhood, in multi-blocks, they're now putting in new gas lines. What a mess. I can't believe that. Doesn't anybody check the quality of these contractors, you know, that are digging up the road and leaves the road? Now, Friday, when they started their digging, like I said, we got a nasty storm on Friday. Didn't last long, but the rain came heavy, and it washed all the debris from digging up all of these roads in the neighborhood. And guess who gets all that debris? Right down to my place. I'm telling you, garbage, rocks, dirt. That same night, they had all of these backloaders and equipment, like all the gravel they put down to fill the holes, you know, was all over the streets. Some places are patched, some aren't. And Dewey now, where the water comes down, see, doesn't it tell you anything that there's a flooding problem? They dug it all up and it just washed it all away. And like I said, I get it all. And Dewey, which separates my house from my garage, man, that alley is just washed away. It's like it's reminds me of the Grand Canyon now. The ruts are so bad there. You know, also another thing, geez, they just paved all these roads last fall. First time in 15 years they paved all these roads, and now they're digging them up, and putting in new gas lines. I don't understand how those kind of plans can be, now they're gonna have to pave again, if they pave again. Now, another thing I want to say, if you remember, the pipe ruptured in front of my house, in one of the last storms. And the contractor, Krieger, I'm telling you, their equipment they had in front of my place, I wasn't there for the day, but when I came home, I witnessed it myself. They had their big equipment on the curb that just got rebuilt where the pipe ruptured. They made a mess out of that curb, it's all broken. This is what saves me my property from where when the water drains and comes down Lafayette Street. That I need every inch of that curb. And now it's all taken out, it's all busted up. I did complain about it to Krieger, and all they did was throw some blacktop, never cleaned it up, just piled up blobs of blacktop. Now, since we've had these last storms in the last 2 weeks, that's all washing away again. Here we go. Now I'm worried about the house getting flooded again, Doesn't somebody check the quality of these contractors, So that's my update on the neighborhood up there.
Yeah,
Thank
Mr. Cerebro, I would suggest if you have the contact information for Krieger, they would be the first people to get in contact with that curb. Because, we just did that, the beginning of spring, like right on the onset, as the weather was starting to break.
I called them. You know what? You don't get return phone calls back. That's what happens.
Because you went through a lot, and we went through so many steps just to get that pipe fixed and the curb put back in, and we didn't do it just to get ruined again.
That's right.
So that's something that we got to stay on. And
see, I be talking to the supervisors that are on duty there, and it's like they can't give me a straight answer. I'm asking them. Well, the last reply I got was, well, we just did that temporary fix. We're going to fix it permanently. When are you going to do it?
Well,
nobody knows.
See, now I'm getting heated again because I know how much you've been through and how much effort we've all put in on this. But you can't wait for that to be fixed on their schedule. That needs to be replaced post haste. And if that was my property, I might have to go ahead and do it myself and then just invoice them and send them the bill. It's a stuck 22 position. It's, what do? Do you wait for Krieger, who, allegedly ruined that curb and then it's going to just affect your home again, which they should do. They should take ownership and fix it to leave it the way they found it. Or do you have to go and take care of it yourself and then just try to recoup damages at a later date? That's a tough decision to call. But as far as that drainage pipe, I'll get back on that and see why that wasn't finished. And for anybody who doesn't know, poor Mr. Cerebro's situation, he doesn't just live on the bottom of a pitch. He lives on every road, it seems like in that neighborhood, just leads right to that area.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, and there's just so much development above and beyond and on the hill that the drainage pipes and the sewer system, the stormwater system that was put in at the time is just not adequate anymore, and that's what eventually busted drainage pipe in front of your house. It just couldn't take it anymore. And there's a last-ditch effort that they have that I think an old resident put in. It's just a big 36-inch drainage that takes it down to that little river basin, and then that will eventually clear everything out at its own pace, but that's just like a last-ditch effort.
Can you just tell me if they're going to be paving the roads after they're done with all of these pipes?
I'll find out for sure.
The utilities are obligated to return the streets to...
Well, after they dug them up in the fall, after they paved, they just left the patches there,
When the work is complete, they have to repave.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the extra time.
Ron Elman?
not bad enough having one leg, now I'm blind. Mr. Kelly from the newspaper isn't one of my favorite people, but he wrote a very good article last week to me, and he didn't go far enough, and I'm sure he could have. Mr. Menorah, last week I listened to you defend your attorney acquaintances, and I wish to oppose your views about oral arguments. I can just imagine you sitting there and wondering how this little squirt up here could confront you. The big Oz sitting there to me. You can't even buy a lousy cell phone now without a contract.
I did not defend anybody. I gave an opinion on the law. Big difference.
Yeah. Well, everything involves a contract. I bet all these people had contracts about the money they were getting after this happened, down to the last penny. I don't know how many people know it. On the parking authority, Mr. Aberson got a couple $100,000, and his nephew's law firm got $1.6 million. Now, what did they do to get this kind of money? The same on the sewer. The nephew's law firm got $1.5 million. That's why the city doesn't have any money, and these people are enhancing their retirement funds on the backs of the people of this city, far as I'm concerned. The problems we face now, you can't use the same old answers they did when they were taken years and years and involved over the years. This idea of sell everything and raise taxes it's just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore, but that's all this administration seems to know. I don't understand why council couldn't do something about contracts, oral contracts or no oral contracts. You people just didn't get involved in this sale like it seems. I've talked to so many professional people here and there. It's the same story. This was a city thing, and there's no council interest in it, or whatever the right word is. This was your job. You know, you're supposed to protect the people, put you in those seats. I still don't know why you gave $3 million of our grant money to Lackawanna College to repair buildings taken off the payroll. I wish somebody would just tell the people of this city, because I've had 6-8 people mention that. This was just beyond belief you'd do something like that. All 5 of you? I had some hope that Mr. Perry might start. He seemed to be turning for the people of the city, but I guess not, you know.
Well, I mean, if you want to ask, the reason why I voted for that was those buildings were vacant for quite a long time and actually not doing the city any good at all. And the longer they sit vacant, the harder it is to get anybody interested in the building. So with some grant money, the Lackawanna College will put those to good use, and more people in the city stimulates more local businesses. Would I like to have them on the payrolls? Absolutely, 100%. But at that point, I thought it was going to be the best use for the property.
That's no reason. That is no reason.
Well, it is. It's my reason.
Down Luzerne Street, Jackson. When's the last time a street sweeper went down those streets?
Well,
have you
now
gone
we're talking
past
about
these closed swimming pools?
We're talking about 3 different
like
issues.
The devil. There's an article in the paper today. There's volunteers cleaning up our park.
Well,
No.
we'll
They didn't
continue it
deserve a
next week.
penny. They took off property from the tax rolls, and you took $3 million to repair it. That's shameful. It's disgusting.
We'll agree to disagree. We'll continue it next week.
No, there was no reason for it. They had $14 million of their own money. They could have gotten $17 million. And this isn't a Beavis and Butthead shirt. It's a Bozzoni and a Mosul shirt, because that's the kind of quality people they are.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. The first thing I have is for Mr. Perry here, because Mr. Ellman and you yourself just had a dialogue on some type. But I just think that maybe later on tonight you should explain to all the residents of this city why we're going in and we're condemning people's rental properties and why the city isn't funding to rehab them, because we're just letting them go and tearing them down, and we're using money that could go somewhere else. And I think we're enriching the wrong people. But on another issue, look it. You know, it's time for the residents in the city to really wake up. Nothing personal against you, Mr. Wessler, but they did the right thing when they voted not to retain you. It's not a personal thing, okay? Now, in the next election, somebody has to run against Mr. Rogan, because there's got to be a real change that's got to take place in this city. You know, I respect Mr. Menora's opinion. He is a trained attorney. But, you know, we're going to get some real fast answers here, because there's two issues in court that are going to bankrupt this city. And, you know, the one with the sewer authority, look, they're going to stall that off. That may go to the high court, and the court's going to sit on it for a while. They're going to maneuver. And then before the higher court hears it, they're going to dissolve that authority. But, you know, when you see what's taking place in this city, and you gentlemen are the watchdogs, it's almost humorous. Only it's so pathetic that there's no humor in it. It's just mind-boggling that all five of you just don't resign. I mean, I just can't understand it. You got a gentleman here talking about flooding on his property. Why don't you just buy the gentleman's house and give him some peace? I mean, you're Mr. Perry, you're talking about a curb. Did anybody go and test that cement to see what the quality of that cement even was? I mean, are we using inferior products? Is that what's going on here? Curbs shouldn't break that easy. I'm being real honest with you. I mean, you know, you just take a look at everything that's being done in this city, and it's just, it's beyond disgraceful. And look, it's not like Mr. Mulligan has any answers, because he wants to be the mayor too. Don't forget, Myron Walkoff did a hell of a job with the sewer authority the last time. He stalled it all. And his group got paid to stand to the side. If somebody would have objected in court to the sale of that authority, it never would have happened. But in the end, with all this money transferred, look, you're going to find out how illegal that is sooner or later. But the problem is that they won't hold you personally accountable. The state won't come in and take your homes and take your assets and then take your bank account to give relief to the residents of this city and strip you of your pensions and do what exactly needs to be done to a public official who has no respect for the people they represent. And the Auditor General should already be here, because obviously he knows what that law is. And you know, I had an opportunity on my Facebook page, as crazy as that sounds, to talk to the guy that co-wrote House Bill 76. The guy was definitely out of his mind. And the people there didn't seem to understand that the real problem in Pennsylvania isn't just school taxes. It's all taxes tied to property. Look it's time for people to wake up, okay? This tax system we have is so antiquated, and look at Mrs. Cummings, she's right. There doesn't need to be a reassessment. The city government and all forms of government need to cut their budgets, because people don't have jobs, they don't have disposable income. You've got, in some places, all the children in the community getting free lunch because the people are just, they've reached these points where There's just overwhelming poverty. And then we're passing out money to nonprofits. Look at the mall. The guy made enough money in the mall deal to pay the whole mall off. It's just pathetic, and I mean that, pathetic. And you have to ask yourself, what did the state representatives do for us? Or the state senator? Nothing. And what are they going to do? And Senator Casey, you can't even get into his office. He's like a prisoner upstairs. You got to be screened to go talk to your senator or your congressman. Because you know something? The government's afraid of the people they represent. And for the legislation that I've watched come through this council for 30 years, I can understand why. And all the cheap suits in the world aren't going to make you look professional or competent. Because when you look at the work you've done, it's worse than shoddy.
Anyone else?
Marie Schumacher. As of this past Monday, it's been 4 months since the presentation of the use of SSA asset sale proceeds. And you were told that the trust agreements were to come to you sooner rather than later. Where are they? You've got
Well,
2 more weeks. Is it going to be September?
Well, everything's tied up with the third-party administrator. We all know
No.
that. And we
Poor-
will not pass legislation until the third-party administrator is
Well,
hired.
you can see it. There's not going to be any money left. They might just as well forget it.
Well, there's
Okay,
still-
I'd
All
like
right, go
to
ahead.
keep going. Thank you. Regarding the dissolution, though, of the sewer authority that you did last December, did each of you read that? And was there a date certain for that termination paperwork to be filed?
No.
No.
There wasn't, or you didn't read it?
No, there wasn't a date certain.
The treehouse. What is the status of the treehouse?
I've asked repeatedly, we haven't gotten an update in, I think, a few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The property list, would somebody please tell me how Noel or whoever is doing it? I mean, all you have to do is go online to the assessor's website, put in the owner's name, City of Scranton or Scranton City, and they all pop up, page after page after page, like 300 of them. I don't know what in the world is taking so long. And I would think by this time, we would have had the bump up in the premium for the Sorrenti property. What is that?
We haven't received that information yet.
Hard to believe. Does anybody follow up?
I was told that the report would come quarterly, so I'll ask Mr. Bolzoni again where the report is.
Has the Electric City Garage, I guess this is for you, Mr. Wexler, since you're on the board of the parking, whatever, NDC or whatever the sub one is. Has the Electric City Garage been updated and renovated as of yet?
Not completely, no.
What percent?
That I couldn't answer.
Has NDC been paying the monthly rental at Marketplace for those 500 spaces?
That I don't know.
Pardon?
I do not know.
When was the last meeting?
The last meeting was about 3 weeks ago.
And do you have anything to report from that?
No, just that there is going to be, their annual meeting should be held sometime in August. No date was set,
And how will we be notified of that?
through advertisement.
Okay. Did the city, when the city contracted with Steamtown 300 for the payment of the use of those 500 spaces at the mall, did that include a statement that if the property were to transfer to somebody else, that everything remained in place? They would not. In other words, was there a no compete? Was there a no compete clause that was to be passed to any future owners?
I don't know that for sure, but I'm almost positive there was, because that was the whole purpose. I think
Well,
that's for
could we-
the
could we-
life of the contract with NDC,
Well,
but we'll see if we can find that out for you.
okay, I would appreciate that, because, I mean, we're talking about money that was given to other people. I think the big winner in all of these transactions have been Mr. Basiliga. And why, in God's green earth, did we give him $4.2 million? Now, I understand it was an upfront for him to non-compete with the rest of the garages. But, I mean, come on. Why do you give it to an individual? Why wasn't it given to Steamtown 300? I mean, if somebody cuts me a check for $4 million and not my company, guess what, guys? It's going into my account. Do we know that it went into the Steamtown 300? And why did we do that? I mean, I got it on a right to know. It's right here from Landmark Bank. They cut a check to John Basiliga for $4,192,716.23. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. He's got no obligation, and that was really poor. Moving on for just a minute to the exit plan. Mr. Evans, do you still plan to pursue the fee reduction and/or elimination since the exit plan says they will stay?
I am absolutely going to pursue that.
Pardon?
Yes, I am.
Then what does that do? That's one of the, I believe, 65 recommendations. I would hope that before you all pass that, we know the impact of each and every one of those. If they're not accomplished, what does it do to our budget? Because we already know we're going off the cliff on the LST tax.
Yeah, the fee reductions are modest, but they're still a nuisance for the people that are paying them.
Nothing is happening that's good, I'll tell you guys.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. I'm more concerned with why the upgrade on the sewer authority was not compensated by the water company. I'm not so interested in the legal fees so much as I am as why this was not pursued, that at least some of the money could have been reacquired. Maybe they plan to abandon that and do it some other way, but at any rate, it's quite a sum of money. On this rental registration, I seen in the paper, I guess some of it was set aside today, the lawsuit, and they were asked to come back to court. But we do have to get rental units registered, especially for trash fee collection, because according to Attorney Hickey, and that was several years ago, it may not have even been, it may have been before the prior council, but the lack of rental registration creates a big hole in the trash fee. And somehow I think that we're not considering only tipping fees, and we're not considering the cost of removal of trash, or the cost of employing people to remove the trash, or the trucks, the insurance, etc., so on. I think $300 is pretty fair for the average person or average household, and you know, if somebody's turning their property into a staging area for their country relatives, well, then, and once again, it's like I said with pay to throw before. Ma Schumacher came home one day and her one bag of garbage had reproduced there. They must have got married or something and had babies, because she had several sitting on her out in front of her house, and I mean, who would pay for that? So I really don't want to have a situation like that with me. And the 300 block of Cedar Avenue, once again, we have more holes. How do we inspect these digs after that was a recently paved street? And now there's, I think, either 7 or 8 patches on that street. And they're not necessarily the nicest patches, and maybe it'll get repaved, but maybe some of these people just want to do their little dig and sneak out of town. And that's how they're getting away with it. And the result is we don't have anything. Is the 300 block of Cedar Avenue city responsibility, or is it PennDOT? I'm not sure. But it's really quite disturbing to go over something and see it's all been nicely paved, and then I'm so stubborn I just as soon fix my car than to spend money and have them come in and do that with impunity, you know? So we really need to make them register to dig, and we need it inspected afterwards, and if it's not up to par, I think we'd be saving a lot of money. And if you're going on your recess this year, especially you young guys, every year the People's Law School, last year it was at the mall, it was from like 6 to 9 or 6 to 8, and they have different courses, and one of the courses are elderly law, and is elderly law, and it's a great value. You'll be dealing with a lot of people, if you're reelected in the future, that are elderly, and you can understand some of their issues, and it might even help you with your parents. So it's in the first week of August usually. Call the Lackawanna Bar Association. The number's in the book. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Don't forget W for dictator, though.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wexler. A couple things from tonight's meeting, and then a carryover from 2 weeks ago. Mr. Evans, if you don't mind, I would like to also follow up with the BA's office on the property list for insurance. I had a note, Mr. Reed, if we can have a letter sent out to the BA's office, just where do we stand on the updates with the insured property list? I do remember saying it was coming out quarterly, but it's been some time, and just if we can get a new update on a time frame when to expect that. I think we all would like to see what was taken off and the impact of the Scranton building as well. The other issue that was brought up by Mrs. Cerebo, if we could have that looked into by DPW on the status and where they stand and their plan of action to finish that drainage pipe that was attempted, and they got about halfway done. I remember I went there to visit with them, and they just, it's a special job. I'm not sure what their plan is, but anything that we had just wasn't going to get all the way through to get to that creek bed. And also, if we can send something out to Mr. Hazori about the patches for the gas company. That way, Mr. Cerebo, at least we have a heads up. And as Councilman Wexler said, they have so many cuts that they do, and then they come back and take care of them. And there's also a time where they have to let them settle, and they'll take cores to make sure they're solid. So there's I know there was one outside of 300 block of Bernie Avenue, close to my house. Oh my! They just finally got the top layer so where it's smooth, but it was not fun trying to dodge that with 2-lane traffic. So I definitely feel your pain. And then carry over that I had from 2 weeks ago. Councilman Gahan and I sent a request out about the speeding that goes on in that part of the city on Bernie Avenue, and we did get a response back. I'll share that with you, and then the comments that Bill and I made in response to that. Bernie Avenue is a state highway. So a letter went out to Mike Taluto at PennDOT. He, with the same concerns about the crosswalk. He advised us that Bernie Avenue is going to be getting paved, and he expects that to happen in the next 2 months. and that's also going to include handicap curb cuts. So what Councilman Gahan would like is crosswalks, which would be the city's responsibility, while the paving and the curb cuts would be the state's responsibility. If we can get that coordinated with the state to have that done simultaneously. The street that I would like would be Wall Street, because that is, there's a McDonough Street, but that's 1 block from the light, so traffic's already slowing down at that point. The block up, which still definitely feeds into the city park and the ball fields, would be, I feel, a better spot for that. And he also doesn't believe that we need a study to put in a crosswalk for the city, which anybody knows anything in the city of Scranton, cutting any kind of red tape out of something is always a good thing. I think Bill and I both send letters with about the same language in it today back to Lori. Just we're looking for a commitment from the city to coordinate something with PennDOT to get a crosswalk put in that part of the city. And we haven't heard back from them yet, but that communication just went out today. And I'll be looking forward to hearing back from them, because that's been a sore spot, the residents in that area for a long time. And I believe that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Rogan?
Yes, 2 brief items. I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Perry said about the Kaiser Avenue funding. If we could also add Cameron Avenue to that request. The rainstorms last week, I know Cameron Avenue was destroyed. I've had some videos sent to me, and that was hit very hard as well. So if we could look at the whole area over there, because I think what's happening is one area is flooding, it's going to another, and I know there have been temporary fixes done in the area. The last thing we'd like to see is one problem fixed that pushes the problem somewhere else. As I've been saying all along, it needs to be done for that whole neighborhood. Next thing, I'm going to talk about something, I wasn't sure how I was going to address this all week, but the ridiculous allegations by County Commissioner Lorene Cummings. I'm sure everyone read the Friday edition of the Scranton Times-Tribune. The headline reads, "Cummings accuses Scranton City Council members of sexism," which is certainly a sensational headline that I'm sure sold a lot of newspapers for the Scranton Times. The article goes on to say, and I'm not going to summarize the whole article, but the article goes on to state that myself and another councilman who have criticized her position on reassessment do so only because that she is a woman, which is the most ridiculous thing that she has ever said. Both Councilman Evans and myself have been in support of reassessment prior to Commissioner Cummings even taking office. So this, despite what she may think, this issue and our position on this issue has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with the issue of reassessment. Now, many of us may agree or disagree on whether a reassessment is a good thing or a bad thing for the city. But that debate needs to take place strictly on the issues and not get involved in these ridiculous personal attacks. One of the worst things in here that was said by Commissioner Cummings was that because Councilman Evans and her are Republicans, that it has nothing to do with politics. I will say one part of that is right. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with public policy. Commissioner Cummings weekly says inaccurate statements regarding the reassessment. And just because she's going to lob a completely untrue charge of sexism at council members doesn't mean that we're going to back down and change our position. If Commissioner Cummings truly wanted to change the minds of the people of Lackawanna County on reassessment or persuade them one way or another, she should do so with facts. I know Councilman Evans will talk about this a little bit more later, but when it comes to reassessment, I don't know of anyone in the county that is more knowledgeable than Mr. Evans. And I know he's going to talk about that a little bit further. Again, to wrap up, Commissioner Cummings continually spews inaccurate information at county commissioners' meetings. This ridiculous statement that this issue has anything to do with her being a woman is the most ridiculous of many statements that have been made in her short time as a county commissioner. I could go on at length about those statements. There's plenty of material there, but we're not going to be here all night. Finally, regarding the reassessment, there needs to be an open public dialogue on whether reassessment is something that is positive or a negative for the county. It needs to take place in many forms. city council chambers, county commissioners' meetings, coffee shops throughout the county. It's a very important issue, and it's going to affect a lot of people. Although I strongly disagree with much of what Commissioner Cummings has done, I do agree on putting it on the ballot. I know I'm at odds with some of my colleagues, but I do believe letting the voters have the final word is a good idea. One person, one vote, whichever side wins out wins. Again, I'm almost at a loss for words, because this is, out of the years I've been on council, this has been one of the most ludicrous things that's been said about myself, about colleagues. Again, as Councilman Evans mentioned, it's beyond irresponsible and worthy of an apology. If Commissioner Cummings cannot debate policy without getting into personal attacks, she should not be in public office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Mr. Evans?
Okay, first of all, ditto. And on reassessment, I will continue to be a voice for a countywide reassessment, and I will continue to speak out in favor of tax fairness and against tax inequity. I will certainly not allow anyone, and I mean anyone, to distract me from that mission. Quite frankly, I'm tired of seeing a lack of growth in our city because of the unfair tax impact the current assessment status has on new construction. I have seen firsthand the consequences of high assessments based on a 45-year-old data. Too many properties that are too difficult to sell because the taxes are too high because of inaccurate and unfair assessment. This situation affects people of all social and economic backgrounds, including senior citizens. Reduced property values should be a concern for everyone. In fact, senior citizens living in a modest homes that are now 45 years older than they were since the last reassessment, rarely appeal their assessments. In many cases, they don't even know about the process or are uncomfortable with it. I would not be surprised, in my opinion, if most seniors, after a reassessment, would see no increase in taxes or a reduction in their taxes. While there may be some people that think they know everything about the subject of reassessment, that's not for me to say. I can only comment on my credentials as to why I feel so passionately about the subject and why I feel qualified to discuss reassessment, as I have been doing since 2007. First of all, I received my real estate license in 1985 and have been a full-time realtor since 2005 and have been a real estate broker since 2010. I am the former director of the Lackawanna County Office of Assessment. It was employed as such prior to the decision to abandon the last attempt at reassessment. While in that position, I held a license of a Certified Pennsylvania Evaluator, or CPE. This qualifies me to properly review and assess for value of properties. Without that designation, you cannot assess properties in Pennsylvania. After leaving the director's job, I was employed as a consultant in Luzerne County during their recent reassessment, and my primary goal was to consult with the various appeals boards during that appeals process. So that is that. Finally, I want to reaffirm, and this is where Councilman Rogan and I disagree, I want to reaffirm that I strongly disagree with the decision for a referendum on reassessment. And with the assistance of our solicitor, I am currently researching all of the rules and statutes of such a referendum, as well as what the true impact would be post-referendum. So that's all I have on that tonight. Tonight we have on our agenda 5B, the introduction of the exit plan for Act 47. So prior to that, I'd like to offer some facts about exiting Act 47. First of all, it is the coordinator's decision to make, not the city's. The coordinator chooses from various options, which I will discuss, and the decision is based on PEL's assessment of the city's current financial condition. The basis for that decision was the financial report that was filed with the city in February of this year. There were three options. Number one, Disincorporation of the municipality. All of the following conditions must be met for the coordinator to find that a disincorporation is necessary. A, the municipality is unable to provide essential services, police, fire, sanitation, etc. The municipality's economic conditions have caused the tax base to collapse. And finally, the municipality is unable to consolidate or merge with a neighboring municipality. 2, existence of fiscal emergency. One of the following must exist for the coordinator to find a fiscal emergency. A, the municipality is insolvent or projected to be within 180 days. B, the municipality is unable to provide essential services, again, i.e. police, fire, sanitation, etc. And C, the municipality has failed to adopt or implement a recovery plan or an exit plan. If one of these conditions is met, the governor appoints a receiver for the distressed municipality. The appointed receiver is granted several powers that restrict the municipality's powers to act, and vice versa, can compel a municipality to in fact act. Finally, the 3-year option plan, or 3-year exit plan. The financial condition report provides the reasons why PEL has decided that a 3-year exit plan was the best option for the city, and that is the course of action we are on today. When I spoke at the public hearing on the exit plan, I stated that when I was appointed and then elected as a Scranton City Councilman, I made a commitment to follow and support the city's recovery plan. I felt strongly then, and still do today, that past failures of the recovery plan were a direct result of elected officials picking and choosing recommendations that they supported and ignoring recommendations that they did not support. This councilman and this city council has consistently supported recovery. But it should also be noted that all of us have had input into each recovery plan that we have been involved with. In fact, 2 suggestions that I made at the public hearing have made it into the exit plan. Number 1, a recommendation that all non-union employees transfer from a defined benefits plan to a defined contribution plan or a 401k. Also, the draft exit plan was silent on reassessment. It no longer is, and it strongly recommends that reassessment take part as part of Scranton's recovery. My final comments on recovery this evening are also something that I said at the public hearing. In all seriousness, while I think we have made some tough decisions and some right decisions related to the financial side of the ledger, I honestly feel that true and lasting recovery cannot be achieved unless there are dramatic, systemic, and cultural changes made within the day-to-day operations of city government. A seismic shift to an efficient and entrepreneurial form of government will be necessary if we are going to thrive post-Act 47. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Guyan?
Yes, thank you. Just a few comments. First, I just want to talk for a little bit about Frank Naughton. As I was on my way into City Hall tonight, Mrs. Reed informed me that Frank Naughton, who was a former city clerk for 20 years, had passed away. And I knew Mr. Naughton not very well, but when Mrs. Reed and I were talking outside, I know she had a great respect for him because she understands, what goes on in this office and how it operates as city clerk. So there's a great camaraderie there between former city clerks and Mrs. Reed. And I think the one thing that we talked about outside, and it is true, is that Mr. Naughton was a gentleman. I had a few conversations with him. I know Mrs. Reed did, and I think it's safe to say that he set a very solid foundation in the clerk's office. And very sad of the news that he passed away, but I think he is leaving a great legacy here in City Hall, and my prayers are with him and his family. A few citizens' complaints. Received a complaint about abandoned cars in the 1300 block of Cherry Street. We had the police department check this out. We did receive an interesting comment from Chief Graziano, and I'd like to read it because I think it's important that the public understands this. Chief Graziano notified us that with the recent change in Pennsylvania state law last year, where they got rid of registration stickers, the police department is getting inundated with frequent complaints about vehicles being parked with expired registration stickers, when in fact, most of these same vehicles have been renewed and are legal, but because the state no longer issues new stickers, they appear to be illegal, with the old stickers still being displayed. Now, the chief explained that, in his opinion, he believes that the state law is adversely affecting many things the police department does, including the efficient enforcement of abandoned vehicles on public roadways, and I would agree with them. My second point is I would just ask that the public be patient with the police department. I know I've received several complaints. Mrs. Reed forwards them to Chief Graziano, but there is a disconnect here because the police are doing their job, but it's very difficult now that the registration stickers are not valid or not needed. Quite a few issues in Kaiser Valley. Mr. Cerebro was here again tonight. I would like us again, I don't know how much this will help, but I did send quite a few letters and correspondence to Mr. Pocius asking for a breakdown of exactly what needed to be done to rectify your situation. I would like to send that again and try to get that in writing. Also, I was out on Pattison Avenue the other day in Kaiser Valley. There's a gentleman that's living there who's having great problems with flooding. Every time it rains, his yard, his house, his garage gets flooded. This problem started occurring after the street had been paved last year as part of the city's paving program. So he has been in contact with the city. He's had no success. I would like the city to rectify this issue for the gentleman. He did give me pictures of the problem, and I will be sharing those with my colleagues, so we're going to follow up on that. A few weeks ago, we forwarded an issue in the 1500 block of Ham Court and the rear 500 block of Palm Street. There are major quality of life issues here, several fire hazards, there's a house in disrepair, clippings, debris dumped in the front yard, and quite a few neighbors are upset. So I'd ask us again to send something to licensing and inspection. Also, a few months ago, I was in the 600 block of Mineral Avenue. Nothing has been done to date yet. Residents are extremely upset about the condition of their road. There is constant truck traffic dumping off of Mineral Avenue all hours of the day. The pave cuts that were done extremely poorly. I don't know who inspected them, but it was not done right. And the city needs to do everything in its power to rectify this issue immediately, whether we need to allocate money in the budget or whatever, because the quality of life in this area is deplorable, and I don't know how those people are living up there with all that's going on. So again, I'd like to send something to the administration. Also had the opportunity to be in the 1300 block of Birch Street on East Mountain. Councilman Wexler is also aware of this issue. If we could please send another letter to DPW, there's serious water runoff issues that need to be addressed. It was brought up again tonight, and I have to tell you, I know we've had several caucuses and several discussions, but people are still complaining and upset with what they believe and what I believe to be the shoddy work on pave cuts throughout the city and around manhole covers throughout the city. So I don't know how to change that other than to enforce the laws that are already on the books, but again, I get more complaints about that than almost anything else on a daily basis. We are still waiting on a response from our city engineer and our DPW regarding water runoff issues in the 900 block of Clearview Street. Councilman Wexler and I attended an East Mountain neighborhood meeting last night. Residents were concerned about drugs at Robinson Park, among other issues. So Councilman Wexler and I are working on, one of the things that came out of the meeting was signage up there for rules of the park and different things of that nature. So we're not sure if we need legislation for that to do it at all city parks, but we're going to be asking our solicitor to investigate that. There were also complaints of several streetlights out up in that area, and there is still one out on Froud Avenue, so we'll be forwarding that information to the appropriate departments. I'd also like to ask that, again, we set up a public caucus with ABM and NDC regarding the parking garages. Most likely we'll have to do that in September. That's what I'm hoping for. I'd like an update on their progress, where they are now, where they're going to be next year. It's been a year since we've completed that transaction, so I think that'd be appropriate. We did receive an update from the business administrator that the Linden Street garage elevator is operational as of July 10th, and work on the Washington Avenue elevator will begin shortly. It was brought up again tonight about the sale of the sewer authority, and I remain deeply and seriously concerned about many aspects of the sale. Specifically, as was mentioned tonight, and as was talked about last week, the payment of $200,000 to Ned Abrahamson as special counsel to the city of Scranton in the sewer sale transaction, and also $200,000 for the parking authority transaction, again as special counsel. And I'm still trying to get my hands on documentation for that. My concerns with this, as I have previously stated, and after we received an opinion from Solicitor Minora, are that the mayor and Mr. Shrive hired Mr. Abrahamson with no contract, no letter of engagement, no documentation of what work he would be doing, no documentation of what work he did, no paper trail whatsoever. I believe that the mayor and Mr. Shrive, whether legal or not, circumvented this body, city council, which is supposed to be a check and a balance to the mayor's office. We approve almost every hire, and it doesn't seem right to me that the mayor gets to arbitrarily hire someone who happens to be a major campaign donor for $400,000 of taxpayer and ratepayer money. I again ask, how did Mayor Courtwright and Mr. Shrive arrive at the $200,000 figure? Was it bid out? No, it wasn't. Was it based on an hourly rate or a percentage of the sale? Apparently not. Was the figure pulled out of thin air? It sure seems that way. The mayor and Mr. Shrive have said that they believe that $200,000 payment was a reasonable amount. My question again is, a reasonable amount to who? The average income per person in the city of Scranton is $20,351 a year. Mr. Abrahamson made $20,000 a month. Again, no paper trail. I'd remind Mayor Courtwright and Attorney Shrive that this is not monopoly money. Now, I am not saying that Mr. Abrahamson didn't do anything. I'm not questioning his professionalism or his ability. But if you're going to pay somebody $200,000 for one transaction and $200,000 for another, and you have no contract, no paper trail, that, in my opinion, is bad government. Again, how can there be no documentation, no paper trail? Especially, we're not talking about $5,000, $10,000. We're talking about $200,000 here. I tried to take my broken weed whacker back to Lowe's the other day. I was turned away because I couldn't produce a receipt. I'm just an average Joe. But Mr. Abrahamson does not have to produce a single sheet of paper that shows an engagement, when he was hired, or what he did. Makes no sense to me. I would like to officially call on Mr. Abrahamson to return the $400,000 that he made off the parking and sewer transaction to the ratepayers until he can provide documentation for the work that he performed. And I think it's only fair. I would also remind the public, and specifically the mayor and Mr. Abrahamson and everybody else, that the city of Scranton has a code of ethics. It's in the Home Rule Charter and Administrative Code, Article 7, Section 701. I'd like to read it for a second. Declaration of Policy. The proper operation of representative government requires that public officials and employees be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. That government decisions and policy be made in the best interest of the people, the community, and the government. That public office not be used for personal gain, and that the public have confidence in the integrity of its government. It's clear to me, after watching everything that has gone on in the past year, that the public does not have confidence in its local government, and it certainly does not have confidence in the integrity of the sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority. I would again call on Mayor Courtwright and the members of the Sewer Authority Board to invite the Auditor General in to audit the sale of the Sewer Authority. I think it is the right thing to do in light of everything that has gone on over the past 6 months. I'd also like to make a request that City Council send a letter similar to an attorney, Mr. Damian Leone, did recently, asking Paul Killian, Chief Counsel for the Disciplinary Board of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, to weigh in on the legal questions surrounding the Sewer Authority sale, specifically whether or not it was ethical or legal for the mayor and Mr. Shrive to hire Mr. Abrahamson as special counsel for 2 transactions totaling $400,000 of ratepayer and taxpayer money, with absolutely, as far as I know, no paper trail. Specifically, in Mr. Leon's letter, he asked for a request to review and investigate attorney conduct related to 50 attorneys and $3.1 million in attorney fees involving public sales of Scranton Sewer Authority to Pennsylvania American Water under Pennsylvania Attorney Rules of Professional Conduct. So I would like to ask our solicitor to review these specific statutes and see how we will compose that letter and our request if my colleagues would agree. On a somewhat separate but related note, I have questions regarding the city's Board of Ethics, which I just read Section 01. When I looked at the Code of Ethics in the city's Home Rule Charter, there are supposed to be 5 board members, and I have specific questions about some of the appointments. We have, as far as I can see, 5 appointments that are outdated. We have 1 appointment that expired on July 12th of 2014, 1 that expired July 12th of 2015, July 12th of 2016, and the 2 most recent ones expired yesterday, July 12th. So my question is, why hasn't the administration appointed anyone to this board? When is the last time this board has met on a formal complaint? And also, this board was created nearly 40 years ago in 1978, according to the legislation. So I would like our solicitor to review the legislation, to review the rules of the board, and see if we need to update those rules in light of everything that has gone on. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guyan. In regards to the problems with the expired registrations on license plates, the city does have possession of a license plate reader. It's a new technology that's being utilized by police departments, and I believe that Chief Graziano, I think we have at least 1, so that should be able to be used in regards to this problem of expired registrations. This evening there was a comment made about Business Administrator Dave Bolzoni working illegally. City Council approved a waiver for Mr. Bolzoni, so Mr. Bolzoni is not working illegally for the city. He was granted a waiver. I would like to thank our office for today providing a quick response to a resident from Southside who was having a problem with construction vehicles. Our office responded quite quickly, and hopefully that matter will be taken care of tomorrow. And that's all I have at this time.
(5B) for introduction and ordinance adopting and implementing the Act 47 exit plan for the city of Scranton pursuant to the Financially Distressed Municipalities Act and authorizing the mayor of the city of Scranton to issue an order directing the implementation of the Act 47 exit plan, which will become effective upon adoption, attached hereto as Exhibit A in accordance with the provisions of 53 PA CSA Section 11701.245, the Municipalities Financial Recovery Act.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I would just like to make a comment. This evening, we've heard several complaints and criticism of the city and how bad everything is going, but when I was elected 4 years ago, the city was facing bankruptcy or receivership. For the people that are in the know, in the financial community, out in the real world, that is no longer an option for the city, bankruptcy or receivership. So as much as we hear criticism and derision about what we've done here, if anyone thought that we would be this close to being out of Act 47 when we took office 4 years ago, I don't think many people thought we would be in this position. So with my colleagues here, some of them have been here for the 4 years, some of them have been here for 2 or 3. City Council has been responsible. City Council has cooperated and worked with the administration, with our financial advisors, with Pell, and bringing the city to a point where we are almost out of distressed status. And as Mr. Evans stated, there is plenty of work to be done once we exit. But this council and this administration has brought the city to a place where we are facing the possibility of having our bond rating improved. We're out in the financial markets getting better interest rates on our loans. So, like I said, as we hear it, it sounds like we didn't do anything good in the past 4 years, but I seriously disagree with that. And going forward in January, as was said, I won't be here. But the work that I've done while I have been here, I feel that we have put the city in a better financial shape. And whoever takes my seat, I am happy that I'm going to be providing them with a much better start to that person's career than the career that I had here with what I faced when I took my seat in 2014.
Yes, I have one comment on the question. I'm still reviewing the revisions that were made to the three-year exit plan. However, I would like to ask my colleagues if they would agree to invite the Pennsylvania Economy League along with Mr. Cross into a public caucus to answer questions that we might have and to also present the revisions to the three-year exit plan. I don't know if we do that next week or in seventh order on the 27th before we go on a break.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, foul of the council number 110, 2017, an ordinance closing and vacating a portion of Wright Court between Linden Street and the formerly vacated portion of Wright Court.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second. On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption. File of the Council number 106, 2017, approving the transfer of a restaurant liquor license currently owned by Scanlon Incorporated, trading, doing business as Dunmore Brew House, 1400 Wheeler Avenue, Dunmore, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, license number R-1172, to Nepali Kitchen LLC for use at 732 Prospect Avenue, Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, as required by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, file of the Council number 107, 2017, approving the transfer of restaurant liquor license currently owned by Joan Hudak, trading, doing business as Seven Sisters Tavern, 814 Susquehanna Avenue, Oliphant, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, license number R-3527, to CFM Beer Brick LLC for use at 337 West Market Street, Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, as required by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for Adoption, file of the Council number 108, 2017, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, setting forth its intent to issue one or more series of general obligation bonds of the city in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $41 million pursuant to the Act of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania known as the Local Government Unit Debt Act, 53 PACS, Chapters 80 to 82, as amended and supplemented, finding that a private sale by negotiation is in the best financial interests of the city, determining that such bonds shall evidence non-electoral debt of the city, specifying that such indebtedness is to be incurred to provide funds for a certain project of the city, which consists of the following: 1, currently refunding the city's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series B of 2003, and 2, paying the costs and expenses of issuance of the bonds, setting forth the reasonable estimated remaining useful lives of the capital projects that are to be refinanced by the bonds, accepting a proposal for the purchase of such bonds at private sale by negotiation, providing that such bonds, when issued, shall constitute general obligations of the city, fixing the denominations, dated date, interest payment dates, maturity dates, interest rates, and redemption provisions, and place of payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds, authorizing specified officers of the city to contract with the paying agent for its services in connection with the bonds, setting forth the substantial form of the bonds, evidencing the debt, authorizing execution and attestation of such bonds, providing covenants related to debt service applicable to such bonds to the extent required by the act, and pledging the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city in support thereof, creating one or more sinking funds in connection with such bonds to the extent required by the act, designating the paying agent to be the sinking fund depositary, providing a covenant to ensure prompt and full payment for such bonds when due, setting forth registration and transfer provisions with respect to such bonds, authorizing the execution of one or more investment agreements by specified officers of the city, and the purchase of certain U.S. Treasury obligations for any other securities or investments in connection with the investment of proceeds of the bonds and the refunding of the city's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series B of 2003, authorizing and directing specified officers of the city to do, to take, and to perform certain specified required, necessary, or appropriate acts to effect the issuance of the bonds, including, without limitation, the preparation of a debt statement and borrowing base certificate, and the filing of specified documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development, all as required by the Act, declaring that the debt to be evidenced by such bonds, together with all other indebtedness of the city, will not be in excess of any applicable limitation imposed by the Act, authorizing proper officers of the city to deliver the bonds upon the approval of the Department of Community and Economic Development, setting forth certain covenants precluding the city from taking actions which would cause the bonds to become arbitrage bonds or private activity bonds, as those terms are used in the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, and applicable regulations promulgated thereunder, authorizing the purchase of bond insurance and setting forth the provisions, if any, required to be included by the bond insurer, authorizing the execution of a continuing disclosure certificate and covenanting to comply with the provisions thereof, authorizing the execution of one or more escrow agreements by and between the city and the escrow agents named therein in connection with the refunding of the city's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series B of 2003, if necessary or desirable, approving the preparation, use, and distribution of a preliminary official statement and an official statement by the purchaser in connection with the marketing of the bonds, setting forth the city's intent to provide funds to refund the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation pension funding bonds, Series C of 2003, and the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation bonds, Series D of 2003, authorizing the execution of one or more escrow agreements by and between the city and the escrow agent named therein in connection with the refunding of the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation pension funding bonds, Series C of 2003, and the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation bond, Series D of 2003, authorizing the execution of one or more investment agreements by specified officers of the city and the purchase of certain U.S. Treasury obligations or any other securities or investments in connection with the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation pension funding bonds, Series C of 2003, and the city's outstanding federally taxable general obligation bond, Series D of 2003, providing when this ordinance shall become effective, authorizing and directing the preparation, execution, and delivery of all other required documents and taking of all other required action, providing for severability of provisions, providing for the repealing of all ordinances or parts of ordinances insofar as the same shall be inconsistent herewith.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. First of all, I'm sure Mrs. Reed is glad that's the last time she's going to be reading that. I have to vote no on both of these pieces tonight. Let me first say that I completely agree with the way in which the administration is choosing to use the proceeds. Paying down debt, I think, is a good thing for the city. At last week's caucus in the governor's room, it was explained in clear detail to myself, Councilman Wexler, and Councilman Evans by Mr. Bolzoni and Mr. Scheer from PFM that there will be a considerable savings to the city, millions and millions of dollars. So I am in agreement with what they are doing. However, I have concerns regarding the following questions that have been posed in a recent lawsuit and others that have come before this council in the last few weeks. The first is whether the sewer authority has a legal existence after the closing, because the city council in December, as was mentioned tonight, passed an ordinance approving the termination of the authority as a step in accomplishing the sewer sale. Yet, as we know, the authority remains operational after the sale in post-closing phase. Number two, whether the authority's transfer of sewer sale proceeds to the city and borough under the closing was done properly if the authority has not formally dissolved. Number three, whether the authority's transfer of proceeds without first resolving the contested easements was proper. And number four, which has been brought up previously, but I don't think it's been clearly answered, is Chapter 56 of the Municipality Act. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the gist of it is that the money of the authority may not be used for anything other than the purpose that the authority existed for, other than a service or project directly related to the mission of the sewer authority and those articles that were set forth in the Articles of Incorporation or in the resolution establishing the authority. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't like voting against this, but until these questions and concerns are cleared up, I can't put my name on this. I don't feel comfortable voting to expend any of the proceeds from the sale until these questions are cleared up. And I have asked Attorney Menora to review these questions and to put something in writing. I'd like to have something to fall back on. So, thank you.
Yes, on the question, one thing that we've learned as we've sat here for the past few years is that Scranton is an executive form of government, and as such, the mayor and the city solicitor are tasked with deciding what is legal and not legal for the city. I contacted the mayor this week. I also contacted City Solicitor Broyles and asked questions regarding this matter. Ms. Broyles is of the opinion that it is clearly legal that we can use this money. And as myself, as a council person, I have to rely on what the city solicitor tells us. Also, if this is not passed this evening, the city will miss out on a $1.5 million rebate. Also, we're going to miss an opportunity to improve our rating out in the financial community. We all share concerns about this deal. Actually, that's why I voted no back in December, because I would have liked the authority to be completely dissolved and gone before all this took place. But that did not happen. The main reason being is that the sewer authority has to remain open to handle the litigation regarding the easements. The easement issue was not handled properly when that started. Just another problem with this whole arrangement. But unfortunately, we already moved forward on this. We've already spent some of the money. We are going to spend this money to redeem some bonds and add some money to our budget. I am concerned there are still some more components of the budget, of the proceeds that are going to be allocated, and hopefully we have some reinforcement of the city solicitor's position before we expend any more of this money. But for myself, I have no other option based upon what she told me this week than to vote yes for this.
Very briefly, regarding the repayment of debt, one of the biggest problems that the city of Scranton has had for decades is the amount of debt. and the amount of debt service. And every tax dollar that goes to pay off debt is one less tax dollar that's being used to fix problems in our neighborhoods, whether it be to keep police officers on the street, firefighters, infrastructure issues. So I've said for many years, we have to get the debt paid down, particularly now where we could pay off some debts, refinance other high-interest debt into lower interest, and really have a savings on the budget that will benefit the taxpayers in two ways. One is in a lower tax bill, or not an increase in your tax bill, I should say. And secondly is increased services. So I don't ever think there will be a day when I'll vote against paying off debt.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
No.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council number 109, 2017, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to reallocate a portion of the proceeds from the sale of the Scranton Sewer Authority to refund and refinance the city's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series B of 2003, and refund the city's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series C and D of 2003.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
No.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 177, 2017, appointment of Aja E. Wentham, 711 Harrison Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the Human Relations Commission, effective June 23, 2017. Mr. Wentham will be replacing Susan Bloom Connors, who resigned on June 12, 2017. Mr. Wentham will fill the unexpired term of Susan Bloom Connors, which is scheduled to expire on August 24, 2018.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F, previously tabled, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 176, 2017, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with James Moran by and through Exceptional Payments, doing business as rentalordinance.com, to assist the Department of Licensing, Inspections, and Permits with the City of Scranton Rental Registration Database Compilation and Management Program for a 3-year period from the date of execution, with an option for a 1-year renewal extension.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question,
Yes, on the question. I appreciate Mr. Moran coming in tonight and giving the presentation and answering questions. I'm going to be voting against this tonight for several reasons. Number one, I wasn't satisfied enough with the answers to the questions and with the presentation that this company, which is basically run by Mr. Moran, is prepared to take on this type of work, number one. Number two, another concern of mine is that this company has not performed anything similar to what's in the proposal in any other city, so it seems like we're going to be the guinea pig for this, which I'm not comfortable with. I don't believe that the details have been fleshed out enough for me to be comfortable enough voting for this type of thing. When Mr. Moran said that in response to my question about visual inspections, he may hire another employee, he may not. That's not in the proposal. That's not nailed down. That makes me uncomfortable. The other thing is, I think a lot of the things within the proposal, the city can do on its own, and the two employees, I think, are capable enough of doing that with guidance from the Director of Licensing, Inspections, and Permits. So for those reasons, I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Just a couple comments on this as well. first of all, the thing, and I'm fully supportive of this contract, as I've been saying for many years, the rental registration program in the city for decades has not worked. Hopefully, this will be one piece of the wheel to get things moving in the right direction. But in response to some of what Councilman Gahn mentioned, what I like about this legislation the best is that the firm selected doesn't receive a dime unless they produce results for the city of Scranton. There's no flat fee, there's no, there's no retainer. It's only based on what's produced. Outside of council, I work in positions where if I don't produce, I don't get paid. And that's what I really like about this. And I do like the fact, there was 2 firms that bid on this contract. This firm was by far the lowest bidder. And secondly, the aspect of a visual inspection, the other firm that bid, which again was much more expensive, although they have a larger staff, they don't have a local presence. So when it comes to doing visual inspections, particularly looking to see if a property has 3 meters for electric on it or 1 meter, and out of town, that's something that an out-of-town company certainly can't do. So because of those reasons, and specifically because of the fact that if there is no performance, there's no payment, I'll be voting yes on this contract.
Yes, on the question, and thank you, Mr. Moran, for coming in today. It's going to be quite the undertaking. The city is in desperate need of this work that you're going to be partaking if this passes. I share some of the reservations that Councilman Gahan has as well, but I see a lot of positives in this program. This is a proposal is going to drive our rental registrations, which this city is in dire need of. We just have too many regular annual people signing in and taking care of what they need to take care of, and there's just too many people outside and off the books that aren't doing it. And I think this will be a good cohesive unit and a team with you working in tandem with the 2 officials from the licensing department, and it's a layered attack. As we talked about today during caucus, there'll be on-site visual inspections, which I think we all agree is very important. You'll be using cross-referencing, easy for me to say, databases, which hopefully could eliminate the fiasco that we had when we sent out the garbage fee bills a couple months ago, which was a disaster. You'll also be using some tip lines to see if we can get some leads that way. We'll be rolling out our sticker program, which will be an asset too. The reservation that I have, which Councilman Gahan has, it's going to be a big job, especially for a one-man operation. So my advice to you would be, once this program gets on the ground and rolling, if it does get on the ground and rolling, is that don't hesitate to bring somebody aboard if you need to, because as Councilman Rogan says, this is a no cost to the city. You only are going to get incentivized when you find someone new on the books. You're not going to get paid if someone who's already on the books re-ups next year. This is somebody who it's newfound revenue. So with that said, I believe there's a lot out there. There's more out there than not. So I wouldn't be shy about bringing some help on board, because I think once you get into this, if you do, there'll be plenty of work for more than one set of hands. But I will be voting for this.
On the question, as I mentioned in public caucus, and I cannot emphasize this enough, operating this program in-house has been a failed program for almost 25 years. And not just failed, it was an epic failure. Year in and year out, we see the same things happen. Mismailings, not enough registrations. We've had the same people, probably the same couple thousand landlords, paying every single year for decades, because they were the ones that stepped up and actually registered their properties. And we let thousands and thousands of properties go unchecked without a registration. When I talk about the theory of more paying less, that's what we want to see happen. We want to see more registrants and ultimately paying a lesser fee because we have more people registered, instead of having the same amount of people, the less, paying more like we are now. So I would definitely be voting in the affirmative. And Ms. Moran, good luck, and if we can be of any help, we'd be glad to help you as you move forward.
Yes, on the question, the one reason why this legislation is here is because criticism leveled at the administration by City Council that they did a poor job in issuing the initial registration requests. And once again, the administrations are the one that are tasked with fixing this problem. They sat down, they analyzed what the problem was, and they've decided that this is the best course of action for the city to take. They're the ones that are going to have to make it work on a daily basis. I think we owe them the opportunity to implement this program to see how it works out. I am a bit concerned that there's no one to take Mr. Moran's place, like I said, if he wins the lottery or moves to Tahiti or something else. I would caution him to please get someone on board very quickly. It's a huge city. As council candidates, we've walked the city. It's a huge city. What's it? 23 square miles of city. So it's a lot for one person to do. So I would advise getting someone on board as soon as possible. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
No.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting's adjourned.